I gotta record.
Remember, it has to be red.
A mystery is calling us, waiting to be solved. What mystery asks? The mystery of an extinction. Today we'll investigate the Tasmanian tiger, also known as the thylacines extinction, from mainland Australia. Learning about this topic will enable you to better understand extinction events, understand the impact invasive species have on other species, and to understand the impact humans have on other species. In this speech, I'll give you some background information on extinction and on thylacines. I'll give you the methods used in the study, the results used in the study, and a discussion of the results. New species in an area can drive other species to an extinction. It can restructure ecological communities, and the impacts are particularly strong if the animals have different hunting tactics than the native predators or animals. Right? It can even drive native predators to extinction. Native animals that consume the same type of animal, or whatever, are bound to run into each other and have confrontations, and they can kill each other off like that. And larger predators tend to kill smaller predators, and the larger predators can also kill smaller animals and then not eat them sometimes. What could have caused the thylacine extinction? It was Australia's largest predator until about 3,500 years ago, when the dingo arrived from Asia. Dingoes are a candidate because they hunt in packs, and the thylacine likely didn't. But it's iffy because the Tasmanian thylacine was considerably larger than dingo. And they also occupied different niches. Hunting technologies and disease could also be factors in how it was driven to extinction. What methods were used for this study? Measurements were taken from 21 dingoes and 24 thylacines from Holocene deposits, which was when they first went extinct. And they were recovered from the temperate southwestern and semi-arid western parts of Australia. All the specimens used are housed in the Western Australian Museum, and some contextual information was available for all of them, including where they were found, the date they were found, and the animal's maturity was measured by, in the thylacine, the full eruption of the third premolar, and the dingo, the eruption of molars. On the skull, points on the skull and parts of other bones were also used to determine maturity. They measured the body mass by the diameter of the femur in both species on the anteroposterior and mediolateral at the midshaft, and on the humerus, the diameters were measured at 35% of the length from the distal end, and the skull's condylobasal length was also measured, and the body masses of both the dingo and the thylacine were compared using two-way analysis variants. Now that we know the methods, let's look at the results. On average, the dingo's limbs were heavier, so it had more mass, but there was considerable overlap in how much mass the two species had. In both species, the mass was lower in the arid regions. In the dingo, the skull of the largest dingo was 23.2% longer than the smallest thylacine. And there are some size differences too. The smallest thylacines were 19.2% and 28.2% smaller in the west and southwest regions respectively, compared to the smallest dingoes. And the largest dingoes were 36.8 and 54.1% heavier than the heaviest thylacines, or smallest thylacines, I mean. The skull of the largest dingo was 23.2% longer than the thylacine, based on the work of Lentis, Filios, Crowther in 2012 in a scientific article. Right? Now the discussion of the results. On average, the dingoes were generally heavier, but and this supports the idea that dingoes were then the dominant animal one-on-one. Dingoes hunted in packs, and thylacines likely didn't, which would have given them poorer odds. There is a source of possible error. The mass equations were developed originally for nudibranchs and not marsupials. The thylacines had great disparity in male and female. A male was generally 13 to 85% larger than a female. And based on size alone, male thylacine may have been able to match a dingo. The females being much smaller would have been much more likely to die in confrontations with dingoes. And it's possible that if enough female thylacines were killed by the dingoes, that could have possibly driven them to extinction. All right. Other possible causes are competition with the dingoes for resources. They could have been looking for food and had more encounters. And the human population size increased, and technology advanced at about the same time as their extinction. And dingoes and humans combined could have both been causes. In conclusion, there probably wasn't a single cause. All right, today we've investigated the cause of extinction of the thylacines. And let's review what we've talked about. I've given you some background information on extinction and on thylacines. I've given you methods used in the study, the results of the study, and a discussion of the results based on conclusions. And with the knowledge of this speech in hand, you should be more aware of extinctions and maybe even have ideas to prevent future extinction events. And that's all.
That was a wow. What were those animals?
Dingo.
Well, the dingo was what?
Tasmanian tiger.
Yeah, that's what. You know, I didn't know there really was a Tasmanian devil.